Hello, faithful love letters, life, and other conversation listeners. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. And thank you in advance for your enthusiasm and patience as we try something new. You may remember in last week's episode, Jane had the great idea of us inviting Eve into a conversation that we could ask her questions and delve into her amazing story. Well, she said yes. And we have that conversation coming in two parts. So today's episode is a delightful conversation with Trish Donnelly. We can call her Eve if you'd like. We shared her beautiful letter with you last week, and this week's episode is my conversation with her, reflecting on that. Our dear Jane had to miss this conversation as she was being present for new Chateau Residency guests. But tune in next week as she will be back with me and we will be speaking to Trish together, digging deeper into this gorgeous conversation. I hope you enjoy our chat today, and I'm eager to hear what you think. Thanks so much for being here. We treasure you.
Hello.
So nice to virtually meet you. I've locked everybody out and
Good
said,
job.
you can't come in, and I'm in the love den.
I love all of it. Oh my gosh. And your bedroom is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That was
welcome.
a lot. That was a lot to hear.
I bet there was a focus.
I know. And I didn't expect it to be that. That was the thing.
Right.
And I was talking to my best friend about it today, and I said, I can't believe that that's the focus. But of course it's the focus, because that's what everybody wants to talk about. And that's,
I don't know about that though. I would love to spin that a little bit.
Yeah.
For you.
Okay.
I think, and I'm going to cry, but just because that's how you know I'm not lying. Sometimes I can speak the truth and not cry, but I think it's a focus because what's most personal is most universal.
Yes.
And as I said in my note to you, there are countless people that can identify with that first part of your story. So that one's easier to talk about. But the efforts, the quantum leaps that you two were committed to take were so epic and so inspirational and so elevated from the common or even the exceptional experience that people have to hear things like that a lot of times before that becomes even something that they might cling to or turn to. I don't know what you've done with your story, but it's so good because it's a hook. I mean, just from a narrative sense, it's a hook that people have, whether they've experienced that themselves or not. Boy, do they have an opinion and a game plan and things that you could have done better, wrong, different.
Yes.
Like everyone's got something to say about that. Yes. And so you get people in because they're kind of riled up, and then you drop this gorgeous love bomb. We're like, well, I don't think I could do that. Well, I could never be unfaithful. But the restoration process, I don't think I could do that. Like, that's too uncomfortable. So you're a freaking queen. And I'm so excited to know you more.
Thank you so much. That means everything to me, because I was mortified in some respect today hearing all of that back, because it was a lot. But I spent a lot of time talking to my best friend about it today, and the reason, and I talk about it quite freely and openly in conversation with people, as I do many other elements of my life, with anybody that I have a one-on-one conversation with. I'm not one of those people who, when you're in a conversation and you can contribute, that holds back to protect myself. I share to make other people not feel alone. And
you're so generous.
And in this respect, this is not something that I know, and obviously you don't know all of this. There's a lot more to the story. Obviously, that was
I hope
just,
so.
Yes, there were so many snippets in there that were just overarching phrases to kind of frame each section of what happened. But there was lots of lines blurred on either side and in between. But you're so right that I was one of those people that would say, I will never do that. I would never, ever do that.
Right.
Like,
how many things have we said as younger versions of ourselves, not in our own life experience or not in anybody else's life experience?
Yeah.
I said I would never eat French fries while driving a car. Well, that went out the window because I do eat French fries while driving a car. There are just statements that are made that may have conviction, but they don't always have the weight and the stability that would be required in that situation.
When I have spoken about this conversation intimately with friends, I haven't shared it with everybody, all of my friends, but some of my friends, opportunity to share the whole story. It is a whole story, and that life is not as simple as, saying I won't do that and I will behave that way and I will make that decision when that happens. It's not as simple as and easy as that. What happened to us in that year, it was devastating that it changed us irrevocably, but it also put us into a deep hole in our marriage and so disconnected, and we were so unhappy with each other,
right? Because
we were so in our own pain of what was happening. He was in his, I was in mine. The result of that is that at the bottom of it is we really, really deeply love each other, are in love with each other still to this day. But when that stuff happens to you in your life day to day, it just takes all normality out, and you are functioning on, autopilot, and there is nothing in between. There was just nothing. There was no communication. There was no intimacy. There was no compassion. There was no appreciation, affection, nothing, because we were just so devastated about what was going on in our lives, each of us individually. And when that happens, of course it's going to implode.
Yes.
But thankfully, we, found place to come. And I was actually saying to my best friend today, we were going over everything, and I just said, I can remember that day, and I really feel like, she said, because it's such an unusual story, that's why people are so fascinated with it. It is unusual, but I feel like we have been we've had, and I'm not an overly religious person. I'm Catholic, but we don't go to mass every Sunday now. We go every now and then, but we're not overly religious. But we do, I believe in God. I said to her, I remember that it was Mass Christmas Day that we went together as a family to go to Mass. And I just remember crying. I was sobbing. I was weeping. It was horrible. I was so devastated, but I really have always felt like God was looking over our marriage. And because in 2006, I went with my mum to Europe, and we actually went to the Vatican, and I inscribed on the Duomo of the Vatican with 10 million other people. There's a lot of graffiti up there. And I put James's and my initials on the Duomo with a love heart around it in 2006. And this happened to us in 2008. When then we went to Mass, it was almost like it brought our family back together. And then in 2013, we went to the Vatican to just go to the general Mass with every other person in the world that happened to be there. And ironically, the most strangest, bizarre thing happened, and we ended up in a private audience with Pope Francis, and we actually had a private audience and were blessed because we were there with all these other families. That's another story with Rett syndrome and Lily. It was just crazy. So I feel like somebody has always looked over us. I feel like our marriage has been very blessed. And
that is so beautiful.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like we really are still together, is because we've had.
I can't even, I'm also a woman of faith. I don't know how anybody does any of this without believing that somebody else is in charge.
Yeah.
That is right. That is just
yes.
abundant in love and grace and compassion, and breathes in restoration and breathes out grace.
Yes.
So when you are in that presence, you walk into a room that's a church or someplace that is a spiritual connection to you, you feel that, and your being is at home, and you get a glimpse of how it's supposed to be. You don't walk out of that room the same way. Like, that is why people go back every Sunday. Like, I want more of that.
Yes. So that is perfectly explained. It is so true. That is exactly how it feels. It's that glimpse of the moment of this is how it's meant to be, and that inner peace, that belonging, all of that. Yeah.
It's peace in situations that absolutely makes zero sense to have peace. And that's when you know, oh, good. Oh, good. I'm not driving this train anymore. I'm so glad.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Your husband, is his faith as important to him as your faith is important to you?
Yeah, definitely. And in times for both of us, but particularly when things happen with Lily, when she gets sick. And a lot of people, this is a real common theme, that people who have a child with a health condition or, a disability, when times become, when things are grave, that's what you yearn for, that you search for some solace and reasoning behind what's happening. And even if your faith is only small, you just will go for anything. Just, I need something to help me get through this, because it is a huge thing to have a child that's sick, huge. And so, so anytime that things like that come up in our life, we do tend to go back to church and go to Mass on Sundays and, make the time.
An anchor, not something that is weighing you down, but something that's steadying you.
Yes.
That's
definitely. It was so funny to hear Jane talking about, I don't have my villa in Italy yet.
Oh, wait for it.
Yeah, but it was funny to listen to that today, because going back to her reiterating that experience when I first met her. And I was just saying to my girlfriend today, actually, it was so funny because my best friend was the one that gave me the book at my French table. It was so surreal because she gave me the book knowing that I wanted to have this villa in Italy where I would do what Jane was doing. I didn't know who Jane was at the time, but I wanted to have a B&B scenario in Italy. And my best friend gave me this book, and she wrote in it, "Dear Trish, here's to your family's future European adventures. Lots of love." And it was Jane's book. And she said, this woman has done what you want to do, but with a French chateau, you're going to love the book. And so of course I did, and I had it on the coffee table, and I decided at that moment I was really committed. James and I had decided, right, we're definitely going to do this. We're going to go to Italy. We're going to buy something. We're going to live there for sort of 5 years, and then, we'll see what happens. And the next day, after James and I had this evening together, we were mapping things out and planning and doing all this stuff. Katrina Roundtree, who you might have heard James speak of before, she's a famous reporter, celebrity in Australia who does a lot of travel stuff. Gorgeous girl. I was following her, and she mentioned that Jane Webster was doing this Follow Your Dreams workshop. And I was like, follow your dreams? And I just got this book and I love it. And oh my God, this is meant to be.
Absolutely.
And James said, you have to go. I booked the weekend for myself, and I went down to Melbourne and I did the workshop with Jane. It was a beautiful day, and I remember it so clear, the mind mapping thing and all of that. That was just amazing. Plan was to go to Italy and move when Lily finished school. And unfortunately, that was end of last year, and we're in the middle of COVID, and it's just,
Right.
We'd hoped to have done that trip a couple of times before she finished school to sort of plan, look at different areas and so forth. But I remember and saying to her, I just don't know how I'm ever going to do what my passion is and what I really want, because I've got this child. And like, what if something happens and there's people there and she's sick, or she's in a bad mood and she's, there's stuff I just can't. And I remember feeling that I was really devastated about losing a dream, not being able to pursue something, that my whole mind mapping thing was like amazing, because it gave me that light bulb moment where I suddenly, because of her facilitating the way that she does, it allowed me to expand. It seems like the most obvious solution.
Right?
But it was not in my mind at all.
There's just this, I think it's so pivotal for dream realization, and that is holding space for yourself to think about it for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because you come to, if you're just thinking about it, right? Like you're out on a walk and you're thinking about it, and then you start thinking about, what if Lily gets sick? What if people are there? And you kind of do a little spiral, and then you're like, oh, okay, now is not the time for the dream. Let me just push that aside and get on with what my day is. And I have been guilty of that for the majority of my life. And I am now making time and taking strides, inspired action in the direction of my dreams. And God is meeting me there. I'm meeting me there. It's beautiful.
Really inspiring. It really is, Wendy, because you have this determination and this, you're like a bullet train track. There is no, I'm not stopping at that station. I'm just going to keep going,
You're absolutely right. And I am not available for anything but the realization of what I believe God has placed in my heart. And just like you were saying earlier in that process, how, I don't know how this is going to happen, which I don't believe that the how is our responsibility. I think that that's divine, and we're just supposed to show up, and the how will reveal itself. We have to show up. We can't sit on the couch and wait for it to knock on our door. But I also, with all of my heart, believe that if these dreams are in us, they are for us.
That's true. I believe that too.
Right.
But sometimes this stuff really gets in the way.
I'm wondering if you feel that you're certainly capable of doing hard things, but not worthy of doing fabulous things.
Oh, definitely.
So we know as women of faith that God loves us and created us in his image, and we know that he is worthy. So we are as well. So thinking that we're unworthy, is that true or untrue? Untrue. And we don't listen to untruth. We only listen to truth.
Yes. And that you're right. If I was to say that out loud, like I was just thinking about what you just said, and if I thought to say that out loud, I would find that hard to really believe that I'm worthy of that.
You need to practice.
I do. You're right. You're right.
I felt so last year I was listening to a podcast of a woman that I admire and follow, and she's a mentor to me. Her name is Gina DeVee. She wrote a book called The Audacity to Be Queen, which is based on the Old Testament story of Queen Esther. And it's really good. And she was talking about in her podcast, she's a life coach, and she was talking about a program that she was creating that was only going to be for a small group of women, less than 10 women, very high vibe. She was not available for negativity. She was not available for lack. She was not available for anybody else. Any of the people in the group couldn't talk to anybody else in the group if they were complaining about anything that was happening. Like, she had all of these rules, and she thought when she wrote them, are you allowed to do that? Can you? And she said, wait a minute, it's my company. I can do whatever I want. So she was chatting about that process in her podcast. And that is when I came up with my personal mantra of, I am only available for what delights me. And that sounded so audacious the first time I said it. And then I just kept saying it. It doesn't mean that I don't clean the chicken coop. Of course, I have chores, I have responsibilities, but it is aligned for me to be a chicken farmer. Having chickens delights me. Having fresh eggs delights me. So all the things that come with that delight, I find delight in. So that is fine. But I kept saying this, and then I'm only available for what delights me, and that delights me. So yes, you may. And they was, oh, is that a thing? Are you allowed to only do what delights you? I said, I think I am, because that's what I'm doing. So then people started saying it back to me. Wendy, I know you're only available for what delights you, but I have to do this, that, and the other thing. And I say, do you? Do you really? Does that delight you? And now my sweet 8-year-old, what would you like for breakfast? Well, I think pancakes would delight me. Pancakes it is. So it takes practice. Just like you and your sweet husband, you had an idea. It was audacious. It required everybody being completely on board, and it took tons of practice. Look at this gorgeous result. Like, you have a proven method, and I would encourage you to apply it to every single area of your life, because it works. And the results are 1,000 times better than you envisioned the results would be before you implemented that proven method.
Thank you. It's, you know, in the things that happen to us day to day, and when we look at each other at times like this, like I took my champagne, I said, going in to chat to Wendy and Jane, and he said, I love you and I'm proud of you and this is all good and this is great, like good on you, and it's we've got a great story and you should share it, and that's really lovely. He's so supportive, but And we are very, very blessed, and we're very lucky. And we do have circumstances that come up a lot in our day-to-day life where we do handle it in an extraordinary way compared to other people that we know in the same situation. We do know that. And I don't know why. There is a level of resilience there between us.
You worked for it. You worked
Yeah.
hard. You actually do know why.
Yeah. Yes. But
If you forget, I'll tell you why.
Yeah, it is. But, and those dreams are great. Like, we dream every day about moving to Italy or back to Croatia where I was born, which was Italy. And every day we think about it. Every day we watch, TV shows and podcasts and listen to podcasts and YouTube things. And we're always dreaming and planning and thinking about it. But it's such a big undertaking. And that's why Jane's so inspiring, what she did with her family, that you do have to look at it and go, well, like, of course, if they can do it, so can we.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. And that is, so many things about what you just said are really pivotal in making that leap from wanting something to having something. You think about it every day. You have to hold that resonance, because that's how you become the vibrational match for the thing that you want. You have to think about it and talk about it and feel it and all of those things. And the fact that you're doing that together is so gorgeous. And then, you're hitting the resistance. Am I worthy? Can I make this happen? Yes, it's a good idea, but will anybody pay me to come to it? Which I can say yes, yes, and yes. But that's me saying it for you. You have to believe. And once you can push through that resistance, that ceiling becomes your new floor. And then there's a whole nother level that you get to live in. The other beautiful piece of what you said is watching Jane have this thing that is gorgeous and desirable. When you look at it, when I look at what she's doing, we don't see, oh, well, why does she get to have that and I don't get to have that? We're not comparing. What we see is she is showing us what is available for us. We see that and we say, thank you, Jane Webster. Thank you for going first. Thank you for showing me what's available. Thank you for demonstrating courage in the same lane that I desire to experience courage in.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And I do think about you, like I watched your little trip over there with Amelia. Oh my gosh. And this would make me cry, like the things that you are teaching her. Oh, like the life that you are showing her. This is how you are to live life as a woman, as a queen.
Yes.
You are the best example. Like, to be doing that with her at that age is extraordinary. It is the greatest gift of all. Like, oh my gosh, I just love it so much. I loved all those beautiful photos of her in every different little experience, and having time with Jane, and having time, like her having time with Jane as well as you.
Yes.
And having time to be in that environment and learning how to do things differently. Oh, just so many things that I took out of that trip, apart from the fact that you were also there doing your own amazing thing with your clients and stuff. Like, to me, like, that was inspirational, and it was so brave and wonderful that you did that, and those two lovely ladies.
Thank you. I received that. I love for her. She said while we were there, Mom, we should have an apartment in Paris, and then we can live in Paris in the summer and the winter and live in Massachusetts in the spring. Okay. And I love that for her, that's a decision away. And for me, that's a decision away. I mean, it's true for all of us. She's just learning these gorgeous lessons 45 years before I did. It's like,
Yeah.
you're going to rule the world, young queen. I can't wait.
Can you believe that even has come out of her mouth? Like that is just as simple as that. We should have an apartment in Paris and that's it.
Giving yourself the time and the space to know what you want, to do the mind map, to, do these practices, to really hone in on what you want, to make decisions and, put it into some mantra that you can hold, like I am only available for what delights me, so that when somebody has a really good idea, like we should have an apartment in Paris or, whatever fabulous thing, if it feels aligned, I'm an easy yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I can say yeah. And I say no all the time because there are things that are no longer in alignment for me. And those no's are becoming as easy as my aligned yeses. And oh my gosh, it's beautiful. I don't carry the guilt of a no like I used to. I heard this wonderful analogy that as much as I love travel, it really resonated with me. And the woman was talking about, her name is Patrice Washington, and she was talking about if you're at the airport and you're standing at baggage claim, you do not pick up luggage that does not belong to you. You don't pick up those bags. It doesn't have your name on it. It's not yours. Leave it on the carousel. And when people are depositing things at our feet or in our space that are their bags, not our bags, we don't pick them up.
There is actually a famous Sonia Choquette.
Oh, okay. Yes.
There's a famous journalist when she retired, a New York journalist that wrote for the New York Times or something, and she wrote famously along similar lines, a quote about, and I read it in one of Sonia Choquette's books, was that she talked about how, if we all piled all of our problems, we all stood around and we all threw them in a big pile in the middle, and we all looked at them, our deepest worries and problems and things that are just crap in our life, and we put them in the middle, and we all stood there and looked at them. We could take whatever we wanted. We would still take our own because it's what we know. It's ours. It belongs to us. It's meant for us. I don't want your baggage and problems, right? Same sort of thing, It's
yes. It takes practice. It is unfamiliar to not take on the weight of the world.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God.
This has been so fun. I loved this conversation.
Oh my gosh, you girls, I love the podcast so much.
Thank you.
I have got so much from listening, and there's some that I've had to go back and listen to, again, and get my notebook out and, like do the work. Like really, it's like I didn't expect it to be like that. I really thought it was going to be something different, and it's turned out to be amazing. Really.
I love that. Thank you. That's so generous of you. We have so much more to talk about.
There is a lot more to the story, other things that happened, and we both have taken away different things from it, and so sort of discussing it, somebody at another level, at a third party, and seeing it from a different perspective is a bit like wow. And there's a lot to that, but that's okay. We talked about it, and it's all good. It's actually all fine. And to me, it's more about really being able to be inspiring to other people who
absolutely are
in the same situation.
We have loved this conversation and sharing this love letter with you, and we would like to invite you to send us your love letters. Visit the link in the show notes to send us your letters and to join our email list. See you next week.